Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Supreme Court affirms Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the Yobe North APC senatorial candidate. And death toll in today's earthquake in Turkey rises to over 1,500. Senior leaders of Taiwan's main opposition party set to visit China later this week. My name is Sunday Ido. We begin in Nigeria. The Supreme Court has affirmed Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the authentic candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC Yobe North Senatorial District. In the late judgment, Justice Sentas Unwaze faulted the approach of the Bashir Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court Damaturu Division by way of originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. In the majority decision, the Apex Court set aside the decision of the appeal court, which affirmed the decision of the trial court that declared Mr. Machana as the senatorial candidate for Yobe North. But in a dissenting decision by Justices Emmanuel Agim and Adamu Jaro, the Apex Court said Ahmed Lawan never participated in the APC primary held on 28th of May 2022 as he withdrew voluntarily to participate in the presidential primary held on June 8, 2022. The minority decision held that the conduct of another primary on June 9, 2022, where Lawan emerged, was in breach of Section 84, subsection 5 of the Electoral Act, as the APC never cancelled the election held on 20th May 2022 before organizing another. 13 out of the 18 registered political parties have threatened to boycott the general election if the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, extends the deadline for the use of old Naira notes. The Apex Bank had fixed February 10th as the deadline for the use of old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes. Addressing a news conference in Abuja today, National Chairman of the Action Alliance, Kenneth Udeze, said the deadline already fixed by the Apex Bank must not be shifted. This comes after presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, had asked the CBN not to extend the deadline for the swap of the old notes. His comments elicited criticism from the All Progressive Congress APC, with the ruling party describing him as an enemy of Nigeria on Friday. On Friday, President Muhammadu Buhari asked Nigerians to give him 7 days to resolve the crisis caused by the scarcity of the new Naira notes. Here in Osun State, businesses and livelihoods in Nigeria are increasingly being impacted with long queues as a result of cash crunch and fuel scarcity amid spiraling inflation. This report by Toby Sanusi chronicles the difficulties Nigerians have continued to face at this time.
Frustration, exhaustion, anger, and disappointment are captured on the faces of Nigerians in their struggle for cash availability, no thanks to the new Naira redesign policy. The ordeal of Monsurat Alakpata and others who have queued for cash withdrawal for over 5 hours at one of the banks in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, corroborates the untold hardship many Nigerians have been subjected to.
Everybody strong láti gba owó, kò sí owó, kò sí oúnjẹ, kò sí nǹkankan. Ebi ń pa everybody. Kí ni benefit pé èèyàn ṣiṣẹ́, èèyàn tún kówó sí báńkì, èèyàn rówó gbà.
I'm stressful. You know, since morning we are here. I'm here since 4 o'clock. 4 a.m. in the morning, I'm here. And I'm number 400 since morning. I'm working. I have money in the bank. I didn't have access to my money.
So àti àárọ̀ láti wá bí àti bí after 6 ni mo ti wà mí báyìí. Àtàárọ̀ báyìí wọ́n kàn dáwọ́ láyé kò tó gbogbo machine kò ṣiṣẹ́. Ẹyọ kan tó ṣiṣẹ́ báyìí wọ́n ti tiẹ̀ lómi. Wọ́n ti forí ẹ̀ fọ́ nǹkan lónìí. Ìjà ní látàárọ̀ lónìí gbogbo ẹ̀ táìtì ni.
According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the scope of the currency redesign is to stem the tide of kidnapping, inflation, money counterfeiting, to boost cashless policy and the naira, among other issues. But consequently, Nigerians have had to pass through the needle to access the new naira, as many commercial banks reportedly hoard new notes and in many cases limit cash withdrawals to a certain amount. There may, however, be light at the end of the tunnel, as President Muhammadu Buhari last Friday promised to address the new naira policy within 7 days.
From bank queues to queues at fueling stations, this is what Nigerians have had to grapple with for a couple of months now. A situation that has left businesses and livelihoods in shambles. As early as 5 in the morning, motorcycles, commercial buses and private cars queue up to get fuel in a country that is a major oil producer.
Similarly, long queues in fueling stations have been on for over 2 months now, with no resolution yet from the federal government, who have shifted blames on the independent petrol marketers. These lengthy queues have been marred by quarrels, fights, heated arguments, among other provocations. Meanwhile, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, attributed the fuel scarcity to an availability of petroleum products and difficulty in accessing foreign exchange by marketers. Timothy Adeloye and some other fuel buyers who spoke to Western Spring Television decried the continued frustration of queuing for fuel.
We passed a lot of stress before I can get the privilege to enter to this filling station. I was here about, it's going to an hour that I spent before I was able to enter to this filling station.
I've been here almost, and let's say about going to almost be 30 minutes now. But I don't want to spend much on queue. That's why I want to pass Dongu. So this Dongu, I'm going to pay 500 now before I pass this Dongu. So to enter the filling station to buy fuel.
While it is yet uncertain when these chronicles of queues will subside in Nigeria, Nigerians now expect intervention from the federal government, which is not yet forthcoming, to stem the tide of lengthy queues in and outside of banking halls and fueling stations. From Western Spring Television, Toby Sanusi reporting.
And outside Nigeria, the death toll in Turkey has risen to 1,498, according to the country's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, AFAD. Alford said the earthquake left at least 7,634 injured, while at least 2,834 buildings have been destroyed, adding that 120 aftershocks have been recorded. This comes after a second earthquake of at least magnitude 7.5 hit southeast Turkey, 4 kilometers south of the town of Ekinzo in Kamaramas, where the magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit hours earlier. Turkey's Education Ministry announced this afternoon that schools across the country will be closed until February 13th following today's earthquake. Meanwhile, Syrian state media reported at least 371 people were killed and 1,089 were injured in government-controlled areas. The White Helmets, in a tweet, said the death toll in Syria's opposition-held northwest also rose to 211 and 419 others were injured. However, according to the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland, tremors from the powerful magnitude 7.8 earthquake in Turkey were felt as far away as Greenland. Turkey's Akuyu nuclear power plant, which is currently under construction, was not damaged during this morning's earthquake that struck southwest Turkey and northwest Syria. An official of Russia's state nuclear energy company, Rosatom, building the plant's Anastasia Zoteva, said earth tremors of about magnitude 3 were left there, but specialists on site have not reported any damage to building structures, cranes, and equipment. He noted that nevertheless, the company was carrying out extensive diagnostic measures to make sure that construction and installation operations can continue safely. This comes as Russia's President Vladimir Putin offered Syria and Turkey assistance following two major earthquakes that killed thousands of people and injured thousands in the two countries. Mr. Putin said Russia shared the sadness and pain of those who lost their loved ones, disclosing that Moscow has two Ilyushin 76 aircraft with rescuers ready to fly to Turkey to help in the rescue efforts. In the meantime, Israel says it has received a Syrian request for assistance with earthquake relief for the Arab state and that it was prepared to oblige in what will be rare cooperation between the enemy neighbors. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a speech, said he had ordered Israeli and sent to Turkey the epicenter of Turkey's earthquake, and that since a request was also received from Syria, he has instructed for the aid to be sent to the country. Syrian officials have reported hundreds killed in the civil war-torn country, both in areas under Damascus control and in the opposition-held northwest. Israel and Syria have been in a state of war for decades, with periods of ceasefire for a time. Israel helped Syrian rebels on the Golan Heights frontiers, and in 2018, it worked with Jordan and the United States to evacuate Syrian White Helmet rescue workers and their families fleeing a government advance. And in Africa, a United Nations peacekeeper has been killed in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo when a helicopter operated by the peacekeeping force came under fire mid-air yesterday. The UN mission in the East African nation, codenamed MONUSCO, confirmed the incident in a statement stating that the helicopter was attacked after taking off from the city of Beni yesterday afternoon. MONUSCO said another peacekeeper was severely wounded in the attack, but did not say who might be responsible or what weapon was fired at the helicopter. Authorities in Kinshasa blamed the M23 rebel group, which is in frequent combat with the Congolese army in the region, for attacking the aircraft. However, M23 spokesperson Willy Ngoma denied the accusation and told newsmen it was not over M23 territory. Yesterday's incident comes just a day after leaders of the East African community held a summit in Burundi's capital, Bujumbura, and reiterated a call to all parties to de-escalate tensions. In the United Kingdom, hospital bosses have urged ministers to reopen pay talks with staff as the NHS in England prepares its biggest ever round of NHS strikes this week. NHS providers chief Sir Julian Hartley said health bosses wanted to see fresh negotiations given walkouts have been suspended in Scotland and Wales following new pay offers. It comes as nurses and ambulances staff walk out in parts of England today. Some of the nurses who gathered for the strike lamented that the NHS is unsustainable and called for an improvement of the NHS. Further strikes are expected to follow later in the week, including a physio walkout.
I was really hoping that we wouldn't have to be out here again. I was really hoping progress would be made and conversations would be had and negotiations would be had, similar to what's happened in Wales and Scotland. But unfortunately, that isn't the case in England. It's a real, especially to ask them to go on strike again. We've had a number of messages of support from colleagues who, unfortunately, they just can't afford to go on strike. They can't afford to lose the hours. So as much as they want to be here to show their support and really try and get that message across.
Well, I've worked in the NHS for 38 years and just seen it deteriorate the whole time, and so it's about making a stand to say that the NHS is not sustainable the way it is at the moment. It's not necessarily about the money, although the wages are poor, and why would you want to do this job and hold somebody's hand while they're dying or work under all of that stress? But it's about having a future for the NHS.
To the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia says the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA chief Rafael Grossi will not meet President Putin during his visit to Moscow this week. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov disclosed this to reporters, stating that Mr. Grossi will meet officials from the state nuclear energy firm Rosatom and the foreign ministry. Mr. Peskov added that Moscow expected a substantive dialogue. The nuclear watchdog has repeatedly expressed concerns about the safety of the Zaporizhia atomic power plant. Throughout the conflict, the plant has come under repeated shelling, which both sides have blamed each other for. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazao, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazao. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazao. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazao by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazao, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
You're welcome back, and moving over to Asia. The senior leader of Taiwan's main opposition party, Kuomintang, will visit China this week and meet its top Taiwan policymaker amid continued military and political tensions between the two sides. China has, over the past 3 years, ramped up pressure on Taiwan to accept Chinese sovereignty, including staging regular military drills near the democratically governed island. In a statement, the party said its deputy chairman, Andrew Hsieh, will be in China on Wednesday and meet the newly appointed head of China's Taiwan's Affairs Office, Song Tao, in a rare high-level interaction between top politicians from Taiwan and China. The KMT said Mr. Hsieh, a former Taiwanese diplomat and one-time head of Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, and his delegation will conduct exchanges and dialogue on the basis of equality and dignity. The Mainland Affairs Council said the KMT had informed it of the trip, adding that Taiwanese politicians who visit China should reflect the Taiwan people's insistence on maintaining democracy and peace and not enter into any authorized negotiations. In the meantime, China's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao said talks held with Australian counterpart Don Farrell were a key step towards bringing bilateral economic and trade ties back on track, with the relations improving after being strained in recent years. Mr. Farrell said the virtual meeting held this morning represents another important step in the stabilization of Australia's relations with China. Last month, Chinese officials relaxed import bans on Australian coal as both countries work to improve diplomatic relations after more than 2 years of Chinese trade restrictions on a range of Australian exports. Mr. Wang said China is willing to restart its mechanism facilitating dialogue with Australia on economic and trade issues and to expand cooperation in emerging areas, including climate change and the new energy sectors. The Philippine Coast Guard has stepped up its presence in the disputed South China Sea by deploying additional vessels and conducting more sorties and overflight to protect maritime territory and the country's fishermen. Beijing's sweeping claims of sovereignty over the waterways have drawn repeated complaints from Manila, which has ramped up its rhetoric against reported Chinese construction activities and the swarming of Chinese vessels in the resource-rich waterway. The commandant of the Philippines Coast Guard, Admiral Artemio Abu, stated this in an interview, revealing that the Guard is making sure that the presence of its vessels is felt by fishermen in the area. He noted that the 26,000-strong Coast Guard has 25 primary ships that can be used for deployment and patrols. This comes as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. last week approved a U.S. request for expanded access to Philippine military bases as Washington seeks to extend its security options as part of efforts to deter what it perceives as China's aggressive policies in the region. Some 47 people are on trial for flouting Hong Kong's controversial national security law in the largest case of its kind. They include some of the city's most prominent pro-democracy figures, such as activist Joshua Wong and Benny Tai, accused of subversion for holding an unofficial primary election. Most of them have been detained for the past 2 years on national security grounds. Critics say the national security law is used as a tool to crush dissent, but Chinese and Hong Kong authorities maintain is needed to curb unrest. Long queues of supporters were today seen outside the West Kowloon Magistrate Court, where the hearing is taking place. In the Middle East, Israeli forces have shot dead at least 5 Palestinian men during a raid on Jericho in the eastern occupied West Bank. The large-scale raid took place in the early hours of this morning in the Bet Jabbar refugee camp, which has been under an Israeli siege, as described by Palestinians, for more than a week and continued until after dawn. Confirming the death of 5 people, the governor of Jericho said 3 others were also injured in the raid. The Israeli military initially said in a statement that it had killed 7 men in total, including 2 responsible for an attempted shooting attack in Jericho on January 28th and 5 others who had engaged the army in fighting during the raid. The army said it withheld the bodies of 5 of the men killed, including those it claimed were members of the Hamas cell in Jericho, including the perpetrators of the Almong checkpoint operation. In the world of sport, the English Premier League has charged Manchester City with more than 100 breaches of its financial rules following a 4-year investigation. It has referred the club to an independent commission over alleged rule breaches between 2009 and 2018. It also accused City of not cooperating since the investigation started in December of 2018. In a statement, City said they were surprised by the charges and are supported by a body of irrefutable evidence. The Commission can impose punishments ranging from a fine and point deduction to expulsion from the Premier League. In the world of entertainment, Nigerian singer Tems has won the coveted Grammy Prize for her efforts on the track Wait For You alongside rapper Future and Drake. The track picked up the win in the Best Melodic Rap Performance category, beating DJ Khaled's Beautiful, Kendrick Lamar's Die Hard, amongst others. Compatriot Burna Boy, however, lost in his quest for a 2nd Grammy trophy after being nominated in Best Global Album and Best Global Music Performance categories. Meanwhile, Beyoncé won a record-breaking 32nd Grammy Awards, while Harry Styles won Album of the Year at this year's ceremony in Los Angeles. Beyoncé made history as she won Best Dance Electronic Album for her euphoric dance opus, Renaissance. In doing so, she overtook Hungarian-British conductor George Solti, whose record of 31 Grammys had stood for more than 20 years. Overall, Beyonce won 4 prizes at the ceremony, but missed some of the early presentations after getting stuck in gridlocked downtown Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. I'm trying not to be too emotional. I want to thank God for protecting me. Thank you, God. I'd like to thank my Uncle Johnny. I'd like to thank my parents, my father, my mother, for loving me and pushing me. I'd like to thank my beautiful husband, my beautiful 3 children who are at home watching. I'd like to thank the queer community for your love and for inventing this genre. God bless you. Thank you so much to the Grammys. Thank you.
Also, Viola Davis also became the latest star to earn a coveted EGOT, a combination of an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. The Hollywood star made history at the 65th Annual Grammy Awards with her win for the Best Audiobook Narration and Storytelling Recording category.
And the Grammy goes to Finding Me, Viola Davis! Oh my God. I wrote this book to honor the 6-year-old Viola, to honor her life, her joy, her trauma, everything. And it has just been such a journey. I just EGOT. Harper's Collins, Lavelle Levette, you epitomize sister friend, and really to everybody who was a part of my story. And the best chapter yet, my loves, Julius, Genesis, you are my life and my joy. You are the best chapter in my book. Thank you.
We say congratulations to all the winners. Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. The Supreme Court has affirmed Senate President Ahmad Lawan as the authentic candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC Yobe North Senatorial District. The death toll in Turkey has risen to 1,498 according to the country's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority. A senior leader of Taiwan's main opposition party, Kuomintang, will visit China this week and meet the Chinese top Taiwan policymaker amid continued military and political tensions between the two sides. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. Thank you most sincerely for viewing. I am Sunday Ido. Good evening.